right, guys, so you may or may not have heard that there was a bunch of protests across the country again over the weekend. I know that I should probably be a little bit more specific, seeing as there seem to be just protests for every little thing these days. This time, these were called the No Kings protests. And I find it interesting when you put these prompts into AI and ask them what they think the activists or the participants of these protests might look like, that it comes up completely accurate, because I'm sure that this is what we all have envisioned in our head at this point every time we even hear the word protest. Now, I want to go over just some of the highlights from this event and trying to answer the question as to what is the purpose? What were they trying to accomplish by doing this? But before we get too much further, I am Outspoken Samantha, and I would love it if you would hit the thumbs up button on this video and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you so much for being here and helping me to grow my channel and supporting me in this way. But let's get into this. So I believe I have mentioned before, but I think we can all agree that protesting has pretty much become a way of American life at this point. And unfortunately, where protesting used to be something that we truly valued and that we used to demonstrate our positions and to use our voices in an effective way, at this point, I truly think it has become something that is just a fallback. It has become a public tantrum. It has become something that is completely unserious. And this is a post by Jeffrey Mead. It is a great account to follow. And he put it this way, which I completely agree with. It says, the founding fathers did not envision protest becoming performance art for virtue signaling. It was meant to be a last resort, not a reflex. But the left protests everything, so nothing feels urgent. They've devalued protest. It's now just noise. And I would love to hear if you agree with that or disagree with that. And I would also love to hear if any of you have been involved in protests before and what was the cause that drove you to do so. Because I know I have. I've only been involved in a couple. And it's because I do think that it is a valuable way to express your voice. And I am so grateful that we have that opportunity in the United States of America, where we have the freedom of speech, where ironically, because we don't have kings, we are allowed to protest anytime our government does something that we disagree with or that we don't like. But I think the most effective way to protest things that your government does is to use the legislators and the government officials that you vote into office to represent you, to take your concerns to the legislature, to the Capitol, and to try to make changes that you think are important and that are in the best interests of the people. That's why we have these representatives. And I always find it interesting, or I am starting to find it just more fascinating than anything, I guess, is that Democrats in particular do not encourage their base to utilize the democratic process that they claim to want to be protecting, that they don't encourage their base to utilize the people that they voted for to go to the Capitol building and to present legislation or to enact laws or to change things in the ways that they seem to take to the streets for. And they seem to be encouraging their constituents and their base to constantly be doing things that are not productive, like protesting over every little thing. They know that this is not going to affect change, that this is not really going to make a difference. So it's interesting that it's just one more point that liberals seem to be completely missing in the way that their representatives represent them, which is not at all. They're basically saying, go out, protest, yell, scream in the streets, and don't ask us to do the jobs that you elected us to do and that we promised to do on your behalf when you put us in office. It's almost like they want the chaos. It's almost like they don't want them to use their base to change things or to make things more productive and positive for the community, but to actually do the thing that they end up doing all the time, which is to destroy things. But I had to look at what the purpose of this protest might be. It says the No Kings protests, also referred to as No Dictators or No Tyrants protests, were a series of nationwide demonstrations held on June 14th, 2025, across all 50 U.S. states, U.S. territories, and 20 foreign countries, organized by a coalition of over 200 pro-democracy groups, including Indivisible, the ACLU, Public Citizen, and the 5051 movement. The protests were a direct response to President Donald Trump's policies during his second term, particularly his immigration enforcement actions, perceived authoritarian tendencies, and cuts to federal services. They said they're protesting no dictators and no tyrants. And I have a question. How is that different than any other protests that the libs have been involved in over the last few years? I'm not seeing any difference. It says scale and locations. Over 2,100 protests took place in cities and towns from major hubs like Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, Atlanta, and Los Angeles to smaller communities like Pinedale, Wyoming, and Lewisburg and West Virginia. Organizers estimated 5 million participants nationwide, though independent estimates suggested 4 to 6 million. And there's a lot of creators on TikTok saying that this was a huge turnout, and they're so proud of all of these numbers. And this is, an estimated 2% of the entire population, which sounds like a flex, but I think as we're going to get into this, we're going to find out that that actually makes the results of these protests that much more pathetic. Demonstrators opposed Trump's immigration raids, deployment of National Guard and Marines in Los Angeles, and perceived attacks on civil rights, free speech, and social programs. Yeah, no one so far has impeded on your free speech, though it seems to me that the left interprets free speech as the right to burn things down. Like that is their definition, because every time we try to stop them from being violent, they claim free speech. And we're like, no, you have the right to say whatever you want. You just do not have the right to destroy property, to go after federal agents or police officers or innocent people and, surround their cars and threaten them, things like that. That is not lumped in with free speech, but they always do that. So it says signs and chants included no thrones, no crowns, no kings, or the flag doesn't belong to Trump, and creative slogans like the only king I want is King Salmon. And that was out of Alaska. But having examples of these things doesn't really seem to matter a whole lot to the left. They don't really value evidence and proof. Their evidence is proof. Their evidence and proof that they heavily rely on is just saying that something is true and it is what they believe, and therefore it is fact. Also, we tend to hear from them a lot that it is MAGA that is a cult and that we are following Trump blindly, even though we seem to have a whole lot more understanding about what it is that he is really doing. But I think if we're going to debunk that whole cult narrative, there is no greater evidence than this particular clip that demonstrates true cult-like behavior, as I just talked about, the chants that these people are out there screaming about.
To resist together, to defeat the pretender king, to win for justice, to win for democracy, to win for we the people. And here we go, because in America, we don't have kings, we don't have crowns, and the people will never back down.
And I believe the screeching into the microphone was from the lovely melodic voice of Elizabeth Warren. This is an article that covers exactly what the No Kings website, that was kind of a point of reference for people as to what this was all about. It says June 14th is also the U.S. Army's birthday, a day that marks when Americans first organized to stand up to a king. Trump isn't honoring that legacy. He's hijacking it to celebrate himself. Yes, I think that the evidence that Trump is a dictator is that he chose to be born on the same day as the anniversary of the army and then had this parade for himself and just pretended that it was all coincidental. Anyway, it says from city blocks to small towns, from courthouse steps to community parks, we're taking action to reject authoritarianism and show the world that what democracy actually looks like. People united, refusing to be ruled. Except we elected the president fairly through a democratic process, and now you are acting on behalf of people that want to ignore that process and have you change the law with the mob, as a king might do, and put people in office and in charge that we didn't choose. Okay. It says this is bigger than politics. They've defied our courts, deported citizens, disappeared people off the streets, attacked our civil rights, slashed essential services, and handed billions to their allies. Enough is enough. We're not gathering to feed his ego. We're building a movement that will leave him behind. The flag doesn't belong to Donald Trump. It belongs to us, which is why they're burning it and setting it up in flames and replacing it with flags from countries that are not American. Anyway, this country doesn't belong to a king, and we're not letting him throw himself a parade funded by tens of millions of our taxpayer dollars while stealing from us and stripping away our rights, our freedoms, and the programs our families rely on. On June 14th, we're coming together to send one clear message: no thrones, no crowns, no kings. So far, the only thing that we're hearing is that Trump is saying that we need legal immigration, therefore he is a dictator, which means, I guess, every country on planet Earth is led by a dictator, because every single country has immigration laws and will kick you out if you don't have documentation to be there, if you cannot prove that you have a visa, if you cannot prove that you are a citizen. So I guess that's what they're saying, which is weird because they said 20 other countries participated, yet they're only protesting Trump and not their own dictators who probably have the same rules that he does about immigration. Okay, let's get into a few of the clips of people that actually went into these crowds to talk to these people, because again, I'm sure that they had a legitimate reason to be there, that they can articulate the policies that they are protesting, that they can point to the things that Trump has specifically done, especially in his second term in the last 100 days, to turn our country from the freedom, non-censorship, your right to do whatever you want, to live freely, Biden administration, to the dictatorship that we suddenly live under within the last few months. I'm sure that they can point to direct examples as to how that has happened in such a short period of time.
Two parties. One is a party of Nazis and fascists. The other party may not be all put together.
And Nazis, like, what do you mean by Nazis?
Hitler's fascists, people who want to use groups against each other.
When I first heard this clip, I honestly thought that Nate was interviewing somebody that was on the right, like somebody that voted for Trump, because who are the people that separate people into groups? White, black, oppressed, victim, LGBTQ, women, misogynist, patriarchy. Like, who are the people that separate people into groups and then decide who has more rights, who needs more special treatment, who is oppressing people more, who should have rights taken away, whether they're a baby in the womb or a white male that has had too much privilege in this country? Like, really?
Republicans want to kill Jews?
Yes. They want to kill Jews. They want to kill black people. They want to kill brown.
Can I just ask, are your credentials and what you're
my name is Nate. I just have a YouTube channel.
Nate, so we don't know what side Nate
Let him. I don't.
Okay, so we already have a demonstration of the group mentality. This woman steps in and says, well, we don't know what side he's on, meaning they can't talk to him if he's in a different group than them. So it's always ironic to me that these people demonstrate that they are exactly who the people that they accuse us of being, and we're the opposite of that, of the people that they think we are. We're always open to conversation. We're always open to crossing lines. We don't look at people's identity or their group. We just want to have a conversation. So the lack of awareness is a consistent theme.
I'm with a group that is just pointing out that there are some folks here who will take words and
let them do it. I don't care.
Let's have a conversation.
I don't care.
She's walking around. She's got this yellow vest. She has an arrow that says something like troll on it, so that she can approach people that are just trying to talk to them. And if they are in the wrong group, then she can blow her whistle and make people aware that that person is there. Kind of like a schmatzi might do to a Jewish person. I'm just saying.
I don't give a shit. Let them deport me.
These people will cut. Thank you.
These are cunts who have no faults and they will troll. Let them troll. I don't care. I don't give a shit about trolling.
Why is she not letting you talk?
Always the white liberal women that feel like they need to step in and speak for the brown people because they truly don't think that people with darker skin are able to think for themselves.
I'm representing the folks at Rise and Resist who have been trained
so Rise
to
and
be
Resist.
marshals.
How much do they pay you to wear this vest?
Absolutely nothing.
Really?
So I did some digging, and the woman trying to stop my interview is named Karen Shaw. She is a professional protester. I found her at almost 100 different protests. Let's look at her portfolio, shall we? Here's her outside Trump Tower saying TikTok time's up. Here's her saying ban guns, not drag. Amazing. This is her telling us that lies have consequences. She is also very passionate about abortion. Even in the video right now, she's just wearing a hat that says abortion on it. This is deranged behavior.
You have to wonder, as it's been floated out there, that a lot of these protesters have been paid and are part of these different groups that are being funded by billionaires, ironically. You have to wonder how much they are dedicated truly to a cause, or if this is just their job now. But perhaps if we look at a couple more clips, we can figure out if these people know what it is that they are protesting.
Yeah. What do you think is causing the divide here in the United States?
Trump. No, he's abrogating the Constitution of the United States. He's using the military as his show ponies. He calls them losers and suckers. He dodged the draft himself. He refused to serve. He made fun of POWs, and then he dares to use them as his birthday party celebrants. You know, this is absolutely wrong. He's abrogating the Constitution on every single level that could possibly be done, especially First Amendment.
Yet during this parade that supposedly was for him, he used 0 of the thousands of military members at his disposal to go after these groups who are speaking out against him. Okay.
Trump as King Jong-un.
Yeah, of course.
Trump as...
It's all supposed to be King Jong-un, but, you know.
Wow. How would you compare Trump to Hitler?
Well, he's starting to round up people, and actually Hitler did a bunch of tariffs too. Yeah, they're actually very, very similar. And they're burning books. I mean, yeah, trying to silence people, trying to hit the United States, like pick an enemy and make an enemy of people. It's very Hitler-esque. So yeah, that's
Do you think America's more divided than ever?
I don't know. There was a civil war here once, so that was probably
a good point.
But in recent history, hell yeah, yeah. So
And how do you think the world becomes more united here in the United States? Everyone's saying get rid of Trump, but Trump, if they got rid of Trump, would it solve everything?
we need to probably put term limits on congressmen and senators and the Supreme Court. It's a lot of stuff we need to reform. That's probably how we bring peace. But yeah, Trump's got to get out of here first.
Ironically, I agree with him. Term limits, that's something we have common ground on. Guess what? Trump has a term limit. He's not going to be going back into office. In 3 years, he will be done. He cannot be reelected. And we would not want to change the process to make that happen. Yeah. And if we look at a few of the signs from this crowd, it says, "I am not a paid protester." Something tells me if you have to tell people that you're not a paid protester, you probably are. That sign says, "Immigrants make America great." And we completely agree. Seem to always leave out the legal part. Ironically, the nobody is above the law party likes to leave that little detail out. So we kind of got a similar theme through all of these clips from these protests. The same chants, the same talking points, nothing really new that we haven't heard before. And as I said in the beginning, they estimated between 4 to 6 million people that participated across the country, which sounds like a flex. But when you think about it this way, it's really not.
One question for what this guy just said.
It turns out that Saturday saw a staggering 2,169 No Kings protests, drawing approximately 4 to 6 million Americans. That is roughly 2% of the entire American population in what's now considered the largest one-day protest in U.S. history.
And that question is, and? Like, that all sounds really good, but what did you accomplish? Like, did you actually do anything? No, and you know what? Better question. What was the goal? Like, was the goal just to have something to do on your Saturday? Because if that was the goal, you accomplished it. Or maybe the goal was to show that large amounts of America don't like Donald Trump. If that was the goal, I got to tell you, dude, you didn't need to have the protests. We are all very well aware that a lot of America doesn't like Donald Trump. We're aware that a lot of America doesn't want him as the president. Like, you didn't need to have a protest for all that. So you know what? That couldn't have been the reason. But if that isn't the reason, could you possibly tell me what was? Because I can't think of anything that you actually accomplished. And I also can't think of anything that you wanted to accomplish other than crowding the streets and bitching and moaning on a Saturday.
You accomplished nothing. And these, again, are funded by billionaires like Neville Singham and George Soros. So again, we're all asking, what was the point of this? And why are your representatives constantly encouraging you to do things where nothing gets done, where they know that it's not going to change anything? Yet they have influenced their base to believe, to use protesting as a reflex, when their reflex should be to go to the representatives that they put in office to make these changes. If they want to see changes in immigration law, we can have the conversation. We can go to our legislators. That's what our representatives are for. If we want to see changes in anything in American life, we still have that right because we don't have a king. I want you to use the democratic process. I want you to have free speech to express the things that you are frustrated with. Because on the right, we do it all the time. And I think we accomplish more because we don't spend all of our time and energy buying poster board, making signs, gathering with people just to scream and yell about something else. Yet all of these protests have the same theme and nothing changes. Trump is still your president. We still live in the United States of America. The systems haven't changed. The process hasn't changed. So yeah. I have more questions than answers, I think, at the end of this video. I would love to hear all of your guys' thoughts on this in the comments below. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. I appreciate your support. Keep it real, and I will see you in the next one.